It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Oh, that was all over the place. Anyway, rocking my Spider-Man shit shirt, and Redbubble yanked the design after this. Damn it. So many of my licensed things come from there. Like, it's characters, but they put it up, but it's the artist. Like, what? Anyway, got my shirt. Awesome. I also got coasters. Because I guess I had a feeling that, hey, because of Spider-Man, they might pull it. But we did a Spider-Man shit! See? This is exciting. But you can't get them because Redbubble yanked the design. But we will work on... I don't know. There's a postal strike in Canada right now. Otherwise, I'd say I make shirts. And if you want them, I'll mail it to you. But not right now. Anyway, Feedback Friday. Like I said, Wednesday was the beginning of the feedback because there's a lot to get through, right? Every so often, I do a video that triggers people. And I don't even know if it's that, right? It outrages people because some people left comments. Those people, I have at least the beginning of a sense of what the fuck they're upset about. Okay? When someone just dislikes and doesn't leave a comment, I can't learn from that. And I mean, I know this is judgy. I'm an INTJ. It happens sometimes. And this is relevant because part of the issue I've had is I made a video about treating people like safe targets and how that's not okay and people shouldn't have to take it. And for some odd reason, a bunch of people got enraged, possibly by tangents. They got outraged. And so they treated me like a safe target for their issues with the world in general, instead of what I was saying, completely doing what they claimed was so horrible to do to people in the video. Right? And I find this a lot. People get the most outraged by things that they're actually doing too. And this is what we're going to talk about. All right? Or that they'd hate to have done to them. Help support this channel if you like this content. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. That coffee support is extra important coming up to the holidays. I do like some people, they only pay for every other session. They pay for what they can afford. And then, your donations chop up the rest. And this time of year, people are cash strapped and they need help getting through. I will put the link to an episode of It's Not Therapy in the description box below, because Akila came on It's Not Therapy and talked about her brush with suicidal thoughts some months back, and we did it now because this is a point in time where some people really start struggling. And so I think some of the uptick in outrage has become some of that. I mean, the US is just tearing itself apart culturally right now. And that's really too bad. It's not the only country. I mean, it seems like everybody's fighting about something right now. But this is going to the fundamental of the only thing I can really go on based on what people were pissed at is what people leave in comments. And multiple comments responded to, me saying, look, I'm not saying this as somebody who doesn't experience it. And I talked about the white people comments that certain friends of mine give. And this seemed to trigger people so badly that multiple commenters were like, get better friends. They're racist. And two things went through my mind. One is, everyone's a little bit racist from Avenue Q. But also, I know that people here, many people here, see, I caught the generality, have sensitivities to being canceled, which means people never speaking to them again for doing one bad thing or a couple of bad things. In lieu of that, I am very perplexed at why people would think that this behavior was constant, or that I should drop a friend because they say a thoughtless thing occasionally. You know, instead of going, okay, I know what they meant by that, and I understand there's a thing, especially in the US, of the difference between white folk and white people. And so if you're white folk, you're invited to the cookout. You're cool because you'll help clean out at the cookout. And almost said something that somebody lost their shit about, because even food is not safe to joke about anymore. But white people are not like us, right? And so there is a difference. And even that aside, it just was a point of, look, I'm not telling you how to deal with stuff I have never experienced. I mean, another thing was, I was in a comic book shop, and the guy who owned it started loudly going, "You know what women don't get?" And I was browsing the new titles, and I waved at him, going, "Woman in the store." And he looked at me and went right back, "You know what women don't get? Women don't get." And then he went to pontificate absolute bullshit. And I was like, am I going to keep shopping here? I eventually didn't. But, you know, that's another example I could have used. But am I going to drop a friend? And, you know, for regular commenters here, after knowing about Fucktober and the shit that I have been going through, to tell me get better friends in light of that, that was kind of insensitive. One. And so now we're at, okay, so you're telling me to get better friends based on a handful of insensitive comments. Are you prepared to acknowledge that by your standard, you don't deserve friends? Because by that standard, no one deserves friends. Every single one of us says dumb shit sometimes. It is just, I think that's part of the whole cancel culture thing, is we're too judgmental of others. INTJ, I am judgy. We're too judgmental of others, and therefore we are afraid to be held to our own judgmental standard. And if you're afraid to be held to your own standard, change your fucking standard. It's not fair, you know? And that's the thing. I don't expect people to be perfect. I expect people to make mistakes. And so I don't cut a person off for a couple of mistakes. The person that says, "This is why I'm not friends with people who aren't white," I better check that. Because I better not paraphrase that quote. Let me see if I can find it now. Because that comment was like, what? When she talks about her friends of other races, I'm immediately reminded to never make friends with people of other races, because that just sounds totally unhealthy to me. That's a take. I think it's healthy to be challenged. And the people can be wrong, right? Anybody who's seen my content, like Hassan Piker came at me and said I was a femcel, and basically suggested I was a racist. I didn't go, Hassan, you're right, on both counts. Just because somebody says something doesn't make it true. Just somebody says something, I can listen to their perspective. I don't have to agree. But understanding their perspective, like understanding the difference between white folks and white people, that I can do. Do I think it's a good idea to, especially in public, there were some of those things of, I know, one of the Black Lives Matter Toronto people got in trouble for making comments about, a tweet about wanting to kill white people or something like that. That's inadvisable. It makes me think of this, it's going to be a weird segue, right? It makes me think of Tori Amos song called Waitress. And it's all about just intense female jealousy. And the opening line is, I want to kill this waitress. She's worked here a year longer than I. And it's all basically about how she's so charming and everybody likes her. And right. But wanting to do it and doing it aren't the same thing. It is one thing to acknowledge our less than ideal thoughts. But accepting it in ourselves means knowing other people are going to have them too. And, putting every thought you have on Twitter isn't a good idea. When you put it on Twitter, you have to be prepared to be judged for it. And it's not always going to be fair judgment, right? But am I going to think somebody's horrible because of one stupid tweet? Well, no, because that would mean I'm horrible, right? I'm so glad I don't have to do that constant social media bullshit anymore. Oh my God. Oh, it's so much better. But by the way, yeah, Discord is coming up. Invites, well, yeah, I'll hold it. So Discord invites will go out Monday. So now's still time to get for the month. Okay. Feelings are valid. All right. But we can feel things. I want to kill this waitress, right? But the story we tell ourselves about those feelings can really lead us astray. And if you're allegedly opposed to cancel culture, telling me to dump my friends because they said a few stupid things, because you assumed it's constant. And if you took that story to say, this is why I don't make friends with people who aren't the same race, well, that means you can't make any friends. Because men say dumb shit to other men, women say dumb shit to other women, men say dumb shit to women, women say dumb shit to men. And this is, yes, everybody, because everybody says dumb shit sometimes. If you are walking around that judgmental, it probably means you're also walking around afraid, because you have to be prepared to be held to your own standards. And those of us that, I have been canceled multiple times. And even when I haven't been canceled, people have gone after me for some really dumb shit. And I can't live in fear, stalkers aside, living in fear just means you're not living. And stupid things people say are about them, not about me. And to be clear, when I say stupid things, I'm not saying every time my friend made a white people versus white folk comment. I'm not saying that's stupid. That's a fair distinction. It's just giving the commenters the benefit of the doubt that it was a stupid thing to say. People say stupid things, right? And I really wish we could operate in a paradigm where we go, that statement reads as racist, instead of you are a racist. Because I've been reading some papers on, race theory and things like that. The idea that the racist is an evil, malevolent monster. Evil, malevolent? Is that redundant? It might be. But, racists are just monsters and are irredeemable. As opposed to, like, we all have some thoughts that maybe we should challenge. And it's better to challenge ourselves than to flip out on other people because we feel challenged. I really do believe in focusing on behaviors. And yes, I'm aware I've joked quite a bit that Solus from Dragon Age is a racist. It's a joke because you can only romance him if you're an elf. It's just a joke, right? I mean, I appreciate fantasy racism. I don't feel wounded by it. I don't need to avoid it because it does show that, Gimli and Legolas started off not getting along and then they became like ride or dies. And that's the whole point. Like, racism exists. Trying to sanitize it from fiction is counterproductive because fiction teaches us how to deal with this stuff in real life. And I do think we're getting fragile in that if we can't handle elf racism, how are we going to handle it in the real world? Because we're going to encounter it, I've had multiple instances in the last few weeks where I said something to somebody and they ignored me or fought me. And then a guy said something not as nicely. And they went, oh, it's clear now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And like, I'm talking about me saying, can you please not do that? And a guy went up to me, you're being an asshole. And they thanked the guy for saying, you are being an asshole, instead of listening to me when I was like, can you please not do that thing? The thing in common there is they were both men and I was a woman. Now, is that the determining factor? I don't know, right? But it's the experience, right? The assumptions people make about me because the color of my skin, the color of my hair. People make a lot of assumptions about me because I dare to talk about, things like lighting yard site candles. And we flatten experiences, right? And the whole thing about making orcs peaceable people. One of my favorite D&D campaigns I ever ran involved an atypical orc. And it was when I was rushed, and so I bought like a campaign, like a story manual, so there's actually a story in it. And so I was looking at it, and it was a short orc. I'm like, yes, a short, like, refined orc who really liked apples and stood on a box to talk. And then he was the orc commander, and so there was an orc general, and in order to get through the orc commanders to his chambers, you had to go through the generals. And I'm like, wait a minute, the one guy's bedroom is in the other guy's bedroom. They became a gay orc couple. And so when I altered the pre-canned campaign. And so when the players killed the general, the orc, like, warlord just fell to pieces because they just killed the love of his life, right? And the players were so taken aback by this orc just ugly crying that they took him with them instead of killing him. And he became this party member. I'm like, okay, I'll run with it. So this guy's like wailing the whole time, this little orc, right? And just wailing about, and he had an extra intelligence score because like he had to be to survive as an orc. But what was funny is the orc that wasn't acting like an orc, right? And eventually he became like a friend to the bar. I was pantsing this whole campaign that was supposed to end killing this pre-canned orc character, but because a little twist I read it, the players really liked it. It's like, all right, now we're doing kind of an enemies to friends trope, and like, let's go with it. And so they wanted to help this poor orc, heal the loss of his love. It was fun. And you need the type to play off, to go against type. And it's like we've lost this, right? Because anything that is weird is bad somehow. And anything that suggests we are weird is bad somehow. And weird's not bad. Weird's just weird. It's just abnormal, right? But that's how we get innovation as a society. Weird people innovate. Why? We think differently. I was talking, it was a lovely conversation. I love talking to this person. But he said, your Discord server is totally different than anything else out there. I'm like, yes, that's the point. Right? Like, that's the point. I don't agree with the way other things run things. And I went into this whole speech about pedagogy for young men and how you need an authoritative structure, meaning you need strong enforcement of rules, but then you need the ability to discuss the rules. And I just info dumped on the poor guy. He was lovely. He took it wonderfully. But like, yes, I'm weird. Why would you watch my videos expecting the predictable? Spider-Man shit, right? Like, and the reason I am weird is because part of it is it's the, you don't look what you're supposed to be. Collection of recessive genes, right? Like, when I did the DNA test thing, I had some Spanish in there. Like, what, Iberian Peninsula, wow, that got lost to the palette swap, right? What happened? But that's the thing, right? I grew up in an Afro-Caribbean neighborhood. I'm, the whole you don't look Jewish thing. And I think that's why I'm so intent on Kunari is a religion, not a race. And there are a lot of redheaded Jewish people. There are. But, and it's like, I am not allowed to be anything. Because my interests don't match what people expect from women. My looks don't match what people expect from these. When am I allowed to just be fucking me? I have to assert that myself. I have to take my individuality by force and or diplomacy. No one is going to hand it to me. And guess what? No one's going to hand it to you either. You live life on easy mode, you don't get all the achievements, right? You don't, that's why we all kind of look down on easy mode, right? That's why Dark Souls games, that's why FromSoft doesn't have an easy mode, because you don't get the same sense of accomplishment when you play on easy mode. At least I don't. It's to the point that people like dump the difficulty. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. Even if it's a terribly unbalanced thing. And that's a choice I make. I could conform. No, I probably couldn't. You can only conform for so long, right? Girly things to me are costume. I'm cosplaying Glinda at 400 Market on the weekend. It's on Sunday. It's going to be kind of wild. But that's costume, right? Then there's me. That's why there's identity, and then there's performance. And these are not the same thing. Like if I have to put on a dress because it's appropriate to a part, all right, it's acting, right? But am I like inseparable from the character? No. There's me, and then there's what people expect of me. And life is a collection of choices as to how much do you test? How much did you just go to get along? And I'm seeing a lot of people want without giving, demand without offering. And no one of character will accept that from you, right? It's, you gotta be able to accept that people are gonna have different opinions. People are gonna have points of view that you don't agree with. And the only way to test if they actually respect you, instead of just fearing that they don't, is to say something. Not ripping their faces off, right? But to say, like, make a joke about it to make a point, or hey, can you not do that? Like, or not here, can it wait? Like, can we talk about this later? Those are essential. And I'm seeing a lot of people lately jump to wild conclusions about other people because they're afraid of taking that risk because they see it as a potential rejection. And yet these people are like, I don't have a girlfriend. I have no friends. I'm that. And then they blame society. And society is a factor, but it's your own behavior too. It's your choices. If you are cutting everybody off before they can cut you off, guess what you are? You're the person you can't stand. You're the person that's rejecting people. Your fears have become who you perform. And think about that, right? You are the person you are protecting yourself against. Think about what that means about what you're doing to other people, right? Not saying anything for certain, just consider it, right? Because it's amazing to me that people would be so offended by something I said happened to me. And me describing a behavior that happens, not saying that it's a good thing. I mean, one person said to me that, you know, I was worried until you said we need to stop with the generalizations. They're like, all right. And he says, you know, I should have known you'd gone there. But it is like, yeah, like I wasn't condoning the behavior in the slightest. That is something that I made a change about. Instead of going, oh, women do this and men do that. And then when somebody gets upset, not all men, it's like, bleh. Instead, I'm like, no, you know what? There's something to that. There's something to people having an emotional reaction that they can't control when they're lumped in. And it is easier for me to catch what's coming out of my mouth than the other person controlling that potentially very strong reaction, right? And if we don't put in that effort ourselves, we lose the right to complain about it from anyone else. If you want to not have friends of any other races, your loss. I feel sorry for you. I don't want to hang around you because we'll have nothing in common, but I feel sorry for you because you know what? Being friends with people from different parts of life makes you better. It is a gift. It is a treasure, right? Being able to participate in other people's rituals and festivals and traditions, that is wonderful. Life is boring if we only have to stay in our own lane. you know, the thing, most of the people, okay, if I were to have only my people, all my friends would have to be gingers. That is a very small pool, you know? Oh, gender non-conforming gingers, much smaller pool. Like what? We're talking now about 0.0001% of the population? No, this system sucks. I don't like this. Like, oh, I must only hang around other female INTJs. Oh, that's 1% of the population. Fuck. Like, that's stay in the cave shit. No, I want to venture out. Right? It's just, it's fun to be able to geek out about like a Kendrick Lamar diss and then come in here and kind of explain it to people. It was amazing to be able to talk to Bianca about colorism, because especially a lot of people who watch from Europe, they were like, I had no idea this even existed. I had no opinions, so I just listened. Like, that's amazing. That's what happens when we talk to each other. That's what happens when we explore experiences that are not our own. That's what happens when we listen even when we're stung. We don't have to agree. And this seems so basic to me. And there is no single characteristic to get through this round of D&D. Right? Any class can do this, right? Mages, use your intelligence. Fighters, use your fortitude, right? Pick the check that you have the most, likelihood of making. But if you got curiosity, use your curiosity. If you got compassion, use your compassion. If you can just take it, I'm so tired of biting my tongue and controlling what I say in the face of people who aren't. And it's not just the YouTube comment section. That's stupid. It's near constant. I go on any social media. It's like, don't do it. Don't do it. I go on Discord. Don't. And, on my Discord, I have to say things, but I have to be so careful about what I say. And then you go out into the world and people say shit. And you're like, it does no good to respond to hate with hate. It does no good to respond to anger with anger. It does no good to respond to rage with rage. You don't fight fire with fire, you fight it with water. But it gets really tiring. And then people say, drop your friends. It's like, all right, block, 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 block. Like, that's the thing. The minute you say that, you've earned the drop. Because you're saying, oh, if anybody makes a handful of mistakes, cut them off. Like, guarantee you've made a handful of mistakes. I know I have, right? Like, I probably should have added the white people, white folk thing, but I didn't want to go off on too much of a tangent. But I couldn't have thought for a second the fact that people thought that was constant. And I admit, I was a little bit concerned about going into my black friends territory. And then I realized, like, actually, most of my, like, closer friends aren't white, which I know is kind of rare, but it's the way I roll. And that, I mean, that's not, I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that. It just is. And this is something I'm going to talk about more next week, I think. I live in a world of is. I don't live in a world of ought to. I take this data, I come up with a solution to the problem with this data. I'm not going to try to force the data to say things it just doesn't, or ignore what it does say. And, like, yes, all the structures out there are failing men. They are. We know that. We know it in education, right? We know it even in work. Men are overrepresented at the very top, yes, of achievement, but men are also overrepresented at the very bottom of achievement, which is the very top worth sacrificing those people at the very bottom? I really don't believe so, because that's saying some people matter and some people don't. And there's always going to be a bottom. But I think the bottom, you know, the bottom for men is suicide with a firearm. So I don't like that bottom. So what helps men achieve? What helps men thrive? Well, what I'm doing. And this is why people are like, just ignore the haters. And it's like, no, because I know that in order for men to feel, there has to be the chance to say it and then have it addressed. The data shows this. I just read a paper from, it was like Luxembourg or something like that recently. Where the heck is it? It was Why Boys Are Performing Less Well at School and How to Fix It, June 10th, 2015, Université de Luxembourg. 15-year-old boys are more likely than girls of the same age to be low achievers, experts report. This is yet more evidence of a long-term worldwide trend of some boys failing at school. New research has identified 2 possible causes and a potential solution. This work was conducted by gleaning evidence directly from children rather than the traditional source of seeking opinions of teachers or parents. I will deal with this on Manly Monday. It is very, very fascinating research, but it gets really tiring to be hated on because I offer an opinion that people haven't heard before, and people can't be patient enough to absorb it. They just have to knee jerk on the one thing they don't like. If you don't like it, don't listen. I can't force you, right? But I hope that if you do watch, if you do listen, it doesn't do anything any good. You're not making yourself happier by leaving a shitty take on someone's YouTube channel. Especially not on a video about treating people like safe targets. The irony just burned me. I asked so many people, am I missing something? Like, am I misreading that? They're like, no. Hope you enjoyed this. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching. And I need to delete some of these. Have a great weekend.